Yes, guys, you know what time it is. It's your boy Jack here at the Irish Hotspur, and we're going to be covering your thoughts on that 2-0 defeat over in Lisbon, everybody. Certainly a very dismal performance. A lot of people have called this kind of a wake-up call, a bit of a lesson for Spurs. We will be joined by Sean from Spurs Talk Show momentarily, but this is really just kind of a short reaction to kind of your guys' thoughts. We want to always get sort of your engagement, your opinions on the show, because I'm pretty sure you guys are probably sick of hearing what David and I have to say on plenty of occasions when it comes to these games. So this is kind of a show dedicated to getting your thoughts out there as well. And you can put them via Twitter if you follow us there. You can also put them in the community section. We're going to be covering both of those today. But as well, everybody, if you haven't already, do smash that like button. But yeah, short Twitter reaction. And I think Sean has just joined us here. And Sean, thank you for joining me yet again. Thanks for combining with me here, front two this morning. But
better than last night's front two. You know?
Maybe so. You and I were chatting in the back end, but maybe summarize quick thoughts on that game last night, that kind of dismal performance.
Yeah, as I was saying to you, mate, I feel like it was. I sort of predicted it. I think I said it could easily be a 0-0 or a 1-0 low.
Oh. Well, maybe we lost Sean there. We'll get him back in just. Yeah. There, you're back. You're back. You're good. All good. All good.
Sorry, mate. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. My internet is a mess right now. Yeah, I just think it was. I don't think Sporting deserved the victory necessarily. If any team deserved it, I'd say it was them. But I think that a 0-0 was a fair result because I think it was fairly tight and just like rudderless affair.
Yeah.
And I feel like right now, I'm guessing it's a really good time to introduce this new concept that you're doing because from what I've seen last night and this morning, the fan base seems to be fairly divided around where to allocate blame. It was always going to be a case if Tottenham continued to play badly but win, people would suck it up and get on with it. But the second that we played badly and lost, then there was going to be some allocation of accountability and everyone had to throw it somewhere. And from where I've seen it, it's either going in one of two directions at the moment, or one of three, really. It's either going towards people that want to blame Levy for and Paratici for not doing enough in the window. People want to blame Conte for not doing enough with the substitutes and making use of the bench, and then people want to blame individual players or the team generally. So I think it's a great day to make the debut of this new concept. It is the debut, isn't it? It's the new.
I think this is the second time.
Was it? Okay.
This could be a cleaner version, you could say, this time. I think last time we were working out some kinks with it. I think we had a lot of fun with it, nonetheless. But yeah, this one, it's a great way, I think, just to get other people's thoughts on it. And like you said, see the kind of variety of sort of thoughts and kind of initial reactions to maybe why Spurs were sort of kind of in a way kind of destroyed kind of at the end of the game. We just absolutely became unraveled or capitulated is really the word I used on the watch along last night. I just didn't understand it, but I feel like everybody really had a poor performance in some shape or form at some stage in the game. So I think there's plenty of blame to be thrown around, and I'm excited, like you said, to see what people have to say. I guess we'll get to the comments quickly first. Everybody, really do appreciate everybody that has tuned in. Like I said before, do smash that like button if you haven't already. Dermot in the house with a super chat saying, a loss is always hard to take, but our first loss in 15 games. And yes, it is hard, but we dust ourselves down and go again because we are the mighty Spurs. Big up, Dermot. It is sort of that moment where I think Darius, who I absolutely love his Twitter when it comes to some of his kind of in-game reactions. He does great kind of like Twitter by the minute reactions, I think. But he sort of concluded, Sean, and I think a really great way that the way that Spurs fans have sort of, I don't know, have absolutely blown up after this sort of performance. He just said, like, have they just been waiting for this sort of loss to happen to point fingers and whatnot?
100%.
Is this? And it also then leads to that element he brought up, but then he also brought up the element of people now kind of, I think rightfully so, criticize Conte, but the whole idea of even Conte out and even, I don't know, even like bringing up Conte out, I think is a bit kind of absurd and kind of sensationalist and a bit attention grabbing. And he just said, like, if you want to also mention Conte out, he said, you're welcome to go back to the managers of before, the unproven, aesthetically pleasing managers. The reason we brought in Conte is for kind of that rapid sort of progress, that rapid sort of path to success. And I don't know. These are the bumps on the road, I guess is what he was saying. And he was
Yeah.
surprised at how many people blew up about it. But then again, when we haven't lost in a long time, I guess that's what teams maybe do when they haven't lost in a long time.
No, I think it's a little bit deeper than that. I genuinely I do think that within the fan base there is a section of the community that there's sections that, like, we haven't had a game this season where we've just absolutely dominated and taken teams to the sword, and so consequently you have people that want to see it through the glass half full lens and people that want to see it through the glass half empty lens, and usually there's some sort of bias that will infiltrate their mind, and I think a lot of people in life, not just in football or in Tottenham community, but in life, they would rather necessarily be like, they don't mind being wrong if the outcome is still something that they want to see happen, but when the outcome isn't desirable, then they like to celebrate being right. And for people that are kind of glass half full, they want to see the bad performances and say, hey, look, let's just brush that under the carpet because we're getting the results. And for people that are not, that are of a different inclination, are going to say they were waiting for their chance to say, I told you so. And as soon as the bad result was met with as soon as the bad performances were met with a bad result, they immediately come out kind of celebrating their opinion. And for me, it's going to be a tricky couple of days for Tottenham, especially when you have Leicester, which is a team, especially away from home, that you could easily put to the sword. How Conte reacts to this, how the team reacts to this on Saturday afternoon is going to be, I think, very consequential for the rest of our season. If we somehow let this slip up last night, impact us, and we don't take full advantage of Leicester, because that should be 3 points and 5 goals. So I think that we need to see a great reaction, and that's what I really want to focus on. I'm really interested to see what the current theme is with the Twitter sphere. I haven't looked at it too much, but
I don't think they're going to be dusting themselves down, Dermot, on the Twitter sphere. I think it's going to be hyping themselves up or getting all fired up, as by the looks of things.
Yeah, Dermot, one or the other, but that's okay.
We appreciate the Dermot. We appreciate the breather. He's passed us, a paper bag to be able to breathe in and out before we enter the Twitter sphere. Big up, Dermot. Really appreciate you, brother. Mark is in the house. Good to see us. Says, come on, you Spurs. Yves Basuma, I'm guessing is what this is. Says, I bet both my testicles on Conte starting Emerson this weekend again. Over under, Sean? Emerson starting? Could he,
I would take the under.
Could he rest at night knowing his testicles will be okay?
I personally, I know where Eves is coming from. I think that you could easily look at Conte's style of not looking to change unless he absolutely has to, and think and then foresee Emerson's playing again. For me, though, he has to be taken out. He has to be swapped. I think the performance yesterday was so bad, both in missed opportunities offensively and getting ridiculed at the end defensively. I think that it was so objectively bad that, and we do have players that are objectively equity. We have Doherty, which could equal more balance. I don't know if Spence will get the berth, but I think that if you're going to make changes, one of them has to be in the right wing back spot.
I agree. I think we've seen enough of Emerson at this stage where I think he's put in some good performances so far this season. He's put in some dismal and some poor performances, I think, as well, especially at the end of that game last night. And he's played enough games already. I don't think he's like a Højbjerg where he's good enough to be really challenging the first team every single game. I think he's welcome to be Conte's favorite. At the same time, I think Conte needs to realize that there are different options on the bench out there that can give him something different, and he's going to have to trust them. So well said, Sean. Mark New says, big yourselves up, lads. Wake up call last night. Emerson and Sonny need to rest on Saturday. Rotate with Spence and Doherty and Kulu. Conte must use his 5 subs. Come on, you Spurs. Come on, your Harris Army. Contenders. Love that, Mark. Absolutely love that. I think that's pretty much summarizes the majority of what the fan base wants to see.
That's a great hashtag. That's a really good hashtag, that one.
I think it might have been Mark last night who came up with it, or someone in the Harris Army that did. Definitely not us, I'll tell you that. Won't take credit for it. TZ in the house. Big yourself up. Stuart Austin, Mark New, give Emerson a rest, give him away more like Claude Murphy, rest Davies, Emerson, Bentoncourt, and Sonny wants to rest.
I agree with that
as well. I want to see Basuma given a chance. I think we could get something different.
Or
Wayne
Skippy.
Bonner. Yeah, or Skippy, yeah, especially. Wayne Bonner in the house, always good to see him. Says, win some, lose some. We move on and whoop Leicester on Saturday. Annoyed that it was a set piece and lack of concentration that cost us the first goal. I understand that, Wayne. I feel like, again, I agree with Sean that perhaps maybe on the merit of things, Sporting could have been probably the better team if you looked at it maybe in a neutral sort of way. The same time, did they really deserve 2-0? I don't really think so. I think
No, the first half was the most boring first half of football, where no one really, apart from Marcus Edwards' chance in the 46th minute. Apart from that, there was nothing to really write home about. And we started the first 25 minutes of the second half, Jack. We dominated, and then like we had the lion's share possession. I wonder whether for me it's why did we lose concentration against West Ham to give that goal away? Why did we lose concentration last night? And I think that one of the things where you lose, one of the catalysts to lose concentration is tiredness. And that's why I think that this, and I'm sure we're going to talk about it either today, if not right now, then later on this evening, Jack. But for me, it has to be part of the fact that if the other teams are going to use their 5 subs bench rule, then there's a situation where they can have 5 players on the pitch, half of their outfield team in the last 10 minutes of the game, that have got like 80-90% battery life. And when Tottenham doesn't do that,
adrenaline and
full of adrenaline, full of full of energy, full of passion. Whereas Tottenham, if you're only going to make one change, and it's the standard change up front, then the guys at the back 5, the back 7, if you like, they're going to be on 10% batteries in the 90th minute, and it's going to increase the likelihood of making sloppy mistakes like losing concentration. So.
True. There you are, Wayne. Fantastic answer there, provided by Sean there for you, Wayne. I really appreciate you tuning in as well. Stuart Austin, really appreciate you. Flash Errol, I think that's how you said. I'm not sure, but good to see you. Felipe Sergio tactically outclassed Conte yesterday. I guess in certain ways he might have, but I feel like the Marseille manager, I think, probably actually gave it a better effort. Perhaps just Sporting have better players up front than maybe Marseille did that evening, but I could be wrong there, Felipe. Spurs 72, always good to see you. Big up, Conrad. Hopefully you're keeping well. We also have Claude Murphy, Tony in the house. Good to see you, man. Sketchy name, though. Phase U 225, good to see you. Ian Ferguson, always good to see you, Ian. Really appreciate you tuning in, brother. Enigma 6. Are we going to talk about Emerson? I'm pretty sure Emerson's going to be brought up plenty. Don't you worry. Chris says Conte partially at fault, but the buck stops with those players. Emerson out, Davies Son rested, and Bentancur rested. Basuma must start with Spence and Longley. Very good summarization, I think, from there, from Chris there. Absolutely love it. And then making sure I'm not missing anybody. John Stokes says we weren't tactically outclassed. We were just dog shit, says John. I mean, if you want to put it simply, I think that's a decent way to put it there, John. Absolutely love it, my man. But for the player, I guess you could actually, if I were to be serious with you, John, I think you actually could have a point in this case that were there really any outstanding or decent performances from any of the first 11? Not really, like in any way. I don't even think Perisic had a good game at all. In fact,
I gave Hugo Lloris the man of the match until the 92nd minute.
There you go. So it just showed that no one actually had a good performance in any way. Whereas in other games where perhaps we have scraped a result, I think you could point to players who had a good game in those 2-0 wins, those 2-1 wins, whatever it may have been. I think Spurs have sort of, I don't know, there's always a player that you could point to that actually did have a good game. And I think in the Sporting occasion, definitely not. So John, in all seriousness, I think you're right, my man. I think you're right. Big up, John. And also Art Green, really good to see you, brother. Afternoon, chaps. Jack, loving the content, chaps. Really appreciate it, brother. But we're going to get straight into it, Sean. No messing around, no messing about. We're going to get straight into it. Go to the Twitter sphere, see what they have to say. I think it's going to start off with Dermot at the top here. And he says, yes, a bad performance. I agree. But first loss since April. Changes will be made for Saturday. They did let the fans down. I will bet my last euro that Conte made sure he told them that a loss is painful. We move into Saturday. Come on, you Spurs. Reports that Conte absolutely tore into them that evening and apparently has even taken them into an extra early morning session. Spurs fans have said this is the wake-up call, and maybe this is the wake-up call that Spurs needed, even if they aren't as worried about it as the fans are. I think Conte certainly was very upset about it, and perhaps the boys can kind of pull themselves together, and we might see a much better performance Saturday. So there is actually rumor that Conte did really tear into them, Dermot. Badrul Mazid, big up Badrul, says, the whole team was rubbish. Kane, Bentancur, Højbjerg missed passes, no intensity, no agenda, but I want Emerson out. Even Cootie was quiet yesterday. Sporting were not good. Other teams would have won. 3 or 4-0. Interesting there, Bud Rule. I must say, I think the whole team was absolutely poor, and we'll get into this a bit later, so I'm not going to spoil my point here, but I think someone will probably bring it up in Twitter, so that's why I don't want to spoil it. But I think the front three was actually just as woeful as the rest of the team. I think the front three was so wasteful on so many occasions with stupid flick on, stupid first touch passes or sort of hero passes, in behind that just weren't necessary. All they needed was just an extra pass, but I'm not going to get too much into it, but big yourself up. Bud Rule. Ash Keg says Dyer and Davies were poor. Shouldn't put all the blame on Emerson, even though he was quite poor as well. I was going to say, Sean, and maybe I'll bring this point up, and I want to know what you might think, because I said this at the end of the watch along, where I feel like maybe the defense had the opportunity to like sort of keep their heads up or like keep their heads high, if you know what I mean, until they let in those 2 goals at the end of the game. If anything, we probably would have started pointing the fingers at the front three, pointing fingers maybe at the wing backs or the midfield. But the back three, for the most part, even Hugo, you could say, you wouldn't have really been as upset with them had they kept a clean sheet, had they just gotten us point. I think we'd be then more upset with the front three, more upset with the midfield, etc.
Yeah, I think so. Listen, I think it's an interesting one, because thus far this season, outside of last night when we've played poorly, you have the dynamic in the fan base. Some people hate the fact that the centre backs are the way they are. Other people look towards the front three, who usually get a bit more of a pass. But this season, I don't think the front three have been firing. Whoever's been playing, I think they've been off. Even Harry Kane, I think he's getting away with flattering to deceive a little bit because of his goals. He scored 4 or 5 goals this season, so people are thinking, is Harry Kane still on fire? But he's really not. Like I think Harry Kane's had a really poor general start to the season in everything apart from his goal scoring. We know about Sonny. Like I don't think Decky's hit the same levels as he did in the previous as he was playing last season. And Richarlison's a bit hit or miss. Like last night, I thought Richarlison was really, really poor as well. His passing was wasteful. But because we lost, the fire and the ire can be thrown back at the back three. What I would say is that if the last 5 minutes didn't happen and it was a 0-0 draw, I think the one person who got away with murder last night in that scenario was Eric Dyer, because had Marcus Edwards' worldy move in the 46th minute, had that gone into the back of the net, that would have, first of all, been one of the goals of the season, certainly in the Champions League, but possibly across European football. And it would have absolutely, like, people would have focused on it, zoomed in on it. The cameras would have looked at it 10 times more than they probably will. And it would have been shared 100 times over. The fact that it was a little toe poke, and I don't know how Lloris got his hand down to it, and the fortuitous situation where it ended up the other side of the post, meant that Eric Dyer, I think, got away with one last night on that basis. And Eric Dyer wasn't responsible for what happened for the first goal or the second goal. He wasn't in the area for the heading that was, I think Emerson Royale and Harry Kane were responsible for the header. And I think obviously Emerson Royale was definitely responsible for the nutmeg that led to the second goal. So I think Eric Dyer got away with one a little bit last night, because had it not been for those 2 goals, then it would have been 0-0. But had that Marcus Edwards goal been scored, a lot of attention would have been focused on Eric Dyer being absolutely rinsed by a 23-year-old ex-Tottenham player in Marcus Edwards. So yeah, I agree with what you're saying, and 100%, mate, that the attention was focused towards the back three, but I think the attention is going to go towards Emerson, and rightly so to a degree. But I think Eric Dyer shouldn't get a pass, because he was absolutely twisted and turned and made to look like an absolute idiot by Marcus Edwards in that 46th minute opportunity.
John Stokes saying here, Conte brought today's training forward to 11 a.m. as a consequence of Tuesday's defeat to Sporting. Players were due to have afternoon training, but an angry Conte called the men even earlier, according to Mailsport. Exactly, John. And I heard he really went into them after the game as well. I think that's totally welcome. 11 a.m. is not even that early. I mean, I'm even up earlier than that right now, John. So I think they can well handle it. And I'm pretty sure their Maseratis will get them to training and on time as well. But Martin Walton was actually at the game last night as a Spurs fan, I think residing over in Portugal as well. And poor guy had to just witness that. And I think he was in the Sporting end as well. Tough times, had Sporting fans jumping all over me. And that big donkey, Paulinho, came onto the pitch, Martin. And I did say I am a fan of a big, useless donkey. And he ended up being very useful for Sporting at the end of the game there, unfortunately. Adrian Chia with a super chat saying, Conte was fuming on the sidelines, and so should we. Players we had on the pitch are good enough to win even only one sub. But players just didn't turn up. I think I see what you're saying, Adrian, because I feel like Conte maybe hurt himself and takes then a bit of the blame with the substitutions. At the same time, you look at that 11. I think that 11 for Spurs is better in almost every single aspect than Sporting's. Whereas when I did look at Marseille's, Sean, I don't know. I thought they actually had a pretty decent defense. I thought they had some pretty good wing backs, and they had a really solid midfield. One of those midfielders we even were targeting last season, Jordan Veretout, instead of like a Bentancur. It's not. I'm glad we got Bentancur instead, but he still would have been a decent player. They had Guendouzi in there, Garrison, and then they kind of had some new, I think, kind of up and coming striker up top. So maybe through the whole 11, Marseille just kind of looked stronger. I think Sporting, when I looked at their team, I was thinking, all right, they have a great right wing back in Pedro Porro. That's certainly true, but I looked at that front three and I was like, that's where the problems lies. Like they'll give us trouble with that front three, but the rest of that team, I don't think was nearly as good as Marseille's.
Yeah.
So I feel like Spurs, I agree with Adrian. This team should have been good enough to
100%. And that's why I get super frustrated when I listen to the post-match reviews and certain people are saying you can't blame Conte, that this is objectively on Daniel Levy, and yet at the same time they recognise that the price of the squad that we put out is 680 million quid, right, on valuation, and the price of the squad for Sporting is 200 million. So if we have a squad that's 3 times more valuable than theirs, and yet you're saying it's not on Conte to be able, or the team, or the players to be able to create enough value in a performance, but yet Levy didn't buy this or Levy didn't do that in the summer. I think it's a disingenuous take. I think there's positivity bias in those opinions that look to blame where their opinions are laid, because in reality, like Tottenham should have easily been. I completely agree with Adrian. Tottenham should have easily been able to overcome that. The thing I think that the biggest problem for Tottenham is that playing away from home in Europe has always been, in the last 3 or 4 years, a very tough affair. You know, since the
has been.
And Conte as well, but like for Tottenham generally, you know, I think I look back at this on my show last night. The last 2 times we won away from home in Europe, you have to go back before the Conference League to the Europa League the season before in 2020, right? And we beat them in we beat some random team, Genk, I think it was, in the second or the third qualification round
in the Conference League away from home. That's right.
None at all, right? So there's a problem with us traveling, and that comes down to more than Daniel Levy. That comes down to the players' mindsets, the coaches, or some sort of, I don't know, sporting psychology.
Just got shivers through my spine thinking about the fact that I forgot that I don't think we got a single win away from home, if I recall, actually, away from home in the Conference League. Oh, shivers through my spine. Shivers. Adrian Chia, completely agree with you and really appreciate the support. Everybody, we're going to go back to Twitter, but I'm going to also try to put it in the comments up on screen. Lots at once, though. And if you do want to put your comments up right away so you can get them answered, feel free to put them in as a super chat, but I'll continue to get them up on screen. Speaking of which, Sebas Wolf, waking up early here, Sebas. Good to see you. Hopefully all is well. Hopefully you got the coffee in hand, my man. He says, the thing with Emerson is that he only offers one thing to us, and it is his defending, and he does it decently. But whenever he has bad games, like yesterday, he offers nothing to the team. Spence in, Sebas. Believe me, you know, since you're a huge watcher of this channel, I've defended Emerson in plenty of occasions when I thought probably the criticism was unjust or maybe a bit too harsh or a bit too extreme. But I feel like all the criticism towards Emerson tonight or from last night, I'm going to let it slide. I think it's fully warranted for the most part. I don't think he was by any means the worst player on the pitch. I think that takes it a bit far, but at the same time, he absolutely burned us at the end of that game. I mean, he is supposed to be defensively reliable. He has been defensively reliable, but the way he got done at the end of the game, it's just, I don't know, it's hard to stand up for him. You can't stand up for him. You have to let him take the blame for it, and you have to let him hold his hands up and take the embarrassment for it. But I've never seen that. I used to even say, Sebas, that Emerson, that almost never happens to him. He never gets magged in situations like that. He never really gets done by players like that. I don't even recall St. Maximin even doing that to him. And so to see that happen by some Sporting substitute was really embarrassing, if you ask me. And I think Spence offers something entirely different to Emerson. Spence actually, his first thought is to go forward, maybe not to be defensive, kind of like Emerson. And I think He'll also take up more intelligent positions than Emerson. He'll be more willing to take on his man than Emerson. I think Emerson does an okay job at taking on his man, but David pointed out during the watch along, Sebas, that he's so flat footed at certain occasions, Emerson, when going for a cross or when trying to size up his player to take it past them. And I think we've seen enough of Emerson at this stage this season, and we've seen him play every single game. I think he's well warranted a rest. He's put in some good performances, like I said before, and he's put in some dismal ones. And I think we're well welcome to see something different. And I really do hope that Conte goes for something different, Sebas. Absolutely, my man. And a few people saying you're spot on there as well, Sebas.
Yeah.
Pick yourself up, brother. And hopefully you're keeping well this morning. But back to Twitter, everybody. Think we ended off with Ash Keggs. Now we're going on to Kyle Vineyard's shit performance from us, man. I'm fuming. Absolutely embarrassing. Kulusevski has to start against Leicester and Frankfurt. The dogs were not let out, KPV. They were not let out. I thought you were supposed to let them out. Maybe Conte forgot as well. El Chiavone says, after a 2-year wait to play Champions League football, we got this. Where was the passion and the intensity? I think we got what we wanted against Marseille, but certainly not away from home this time, Alan. This was supposed to be one of the more enjoyable trips away from home. I feel like Frankfurt, I don't know, nowhere near as glamorous as I think Lisbon is, as much as we love maybe a good bratwurst and beer. But I think Lisbon's certainly a more glamorous city. And then I think Marseille is a kind of a bit of a scary trip away from home, if you ask me, Al. But certainly disappointed the fans, I'll tell you that. Hotspur Sam says Conte needs to stop talking and start doing, look to himself and stop blaming players and the squad depth. This is the squad that he has now, Sam. He's going to have to work with it. And especially when it comes to the right wing back situation, as much as he doesn't have a Hakimi or something or a Pedro Porro or anything available to him, he has 3 different options, if not 4 different options. You could even say 5 different options at right wing back. He has Kulusevski, Lucas, Doherty, Spence, Emerson. He has plenty of different players that he can trial out there. Yes, they all have their deficiencies. Yes, they all have their weaknesses, but he also has plenty of different options there, plenty of different types of styles, different things that they could offer. And I think he's going to have to move away from probably the safety, you could say, of Emerson, Sam. Definitely. Tony Rossi saying Kane had a bad night and Emerson needs to get dropped. Absolutely. Joey Boy saying shambles. Brian Smith saying been overrun in the midfield. Need to go 4 in the midfield. Need a creative passer in there as well as a change of system to a 3-5-2. Kulu on the left, Perisic on the right. Any 2 up front, putting Kulu on the left instead. That's kind of interesting. Prue says Son should be benched.
I think he must mean Kulu on the right, Perisic on the left. It must have been.
Maybe, yeah. But yeah. What do you think of that? Would you move to a 3-5-2? 3 in the midfield?
Well, I spoke about this on my Tottenham walk this morning. I think that a lot of people are asking for the 3-5-2, but the players that we have, if people that are asking for a 3-5-2 are not suggesting you move Kulu into a 10 or Richie into a 10, then you're essentially asking for Bissouma, Højbjerg, and Benton, for example, right? And I think that those 3 players are closer to 6s than they are. Like they're probably 2 of them are 6s, one of them's an 8. Bissouma could be an 8, but neither of them are 10s. None of them are 10s, and so I think that we don't have someone that can naturally fit into that 3-5-2 system unless you're asking Harry Kane or Kulu to do it, and we already kind of incorporate that into our tactic anyway, and people get frustrated by it. When Harry Kane drops deep to try and win the ball because he sees that there's not that much ability to get the ball up front, he comes deep anyway, and then people get upset with him or with the whole system requiring Kane to come back. So for me, look, in the January window, we absolutely need to improve in 3 positions that we didn't improve in. One of them is a creative midfielder, so that we can have someone who can do that job, whether it's a James Maddison or whoever else. But until then, we're stuck with what we have, and I don't think that there is a natural 3-5-2 if you're going to bring Bissouma or Ollie Skip into the team. I don't think you have it. And if you don't have it and you're looking for one of the guys up front to step back into the 10 role, then we already kind of do that anyway. So for me, I don't think it's...
I know what you mean.
Yeah, I'm not sure it necessarily kind of works, if I'm honest.
I feel like we could realistically go for a 3-5-2 if we were to then maybe sacrifice Emerson as a wingback, we would need much more creativity on the wingback front. So you go for Perisic out wide, and then you would go for a Spence or a Lucas, I would imagine. I think instead out there, something
And who would you? So in that basis, would you have Bissouma, Højbjerg, and
or
Bentancur?
Kulusevski even as a wingback if you could get away with it. I think you would, just
Okay.
because you. While I agree with you, there wouldn't be a natural 10 to sort of put in that 3-5-2. You could still put 3 hardworking midfielders, as well as 3 midfielders who certainly know how to play a pass. Like Højbjerg, until last night, was playing absolute dimes, I thought, the past few games. And then we know Bissouma is probably the most technically gifted in all aspects, maybe on the ball. And it's not like to say we have poor midfielders, and maybe what you make up for that loss of creativity and that lack of a 10, you make up for it with maybe more dynamic, more attacking wingbacks. You go for Spence, go for Kulusevski, go for Lucas.
Got it. Okay.
Love that.
And who would be your, if of the 4 midfielders we have, who would be the third that you'd bring in? Would it be Ollie Skip or would it be Bissouma?
I think you'd bring in Bissouma. I think you would let Skip rotate in for either a Højbjerg or a Bentancur or a Bissouma to lock things up. And to be fair, that probably might be the best system for Højbjerg even, when you think about it, because he would then be able to sit in front of the defense, be able to protect it more, sit from a deeper position, be able to, play passes and link up play. Perhaps Bentancur can play a bit higher up, or at least be able to rotate a bit more. And Bissouma can also kind of run around a bit more. And you kind of have Højbjerg as sort of that metronome maybe in the midfield.
Oh, metronome. I love that. The cadence, the beat,
the beat dropper. There's probably some football. I don't play enough football.
No, it's a fantastic word. Metronome. It's a brilliant word.
Maybe they should hire me for that.
Hashtag metronome.
Son should be benched for a while. Emerson shouldn't even be starting, and Conte way too conservative with the substitutions. Summarized it well, I would imagine. I think Son at this stage, like, I'm not even upset with him at all or anything. Like, think he's still going to come through by all means, but just feel like Leicester at home, it's not a risky game by any means to make rotations and substitutions. Ruth says, yep, agree with all of that. Kulu brought on too late. Sess brought on almost needlessly, kept giving the ball away. I feel like Sess brought on perhaps because he's going to continue with Perisic for the next match. He wants to conserve Perisic. I'm not sure, though. JH saying Emerson Royale should not play again. Offers nothing as a wingback. One of his worst performances, if you ask me, JH. CF says, glad I was at work and missed it. From what I heard, it was terrible. I would say tune into the Leicester one, CF, if you're not working on a Saturday. I imagine we'll have a much better performance. Thornton Spur, I believe, says not bothered. Roll on Saturday in some proper footy. Let's make it 3 out of 3 wins at home. I guess there's still an opportunity to stay undefeated in the Premier League, and with a few more games, maybe a few more wins, perhaps we'll forget about this performance. The Ginger Sweet fan club says, I was beginning to think Poch had come back, and then corner defending from the left is particularly awful for years. Sean, have you noticed that? Do we concede more from like in-swinging corners from the left-hand side? It's hard to think about it. Like, I guess it's hard.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Wow.
It's like
I haven't noticed. To be honest, I wouldn't want to comment. But yeah, if what he's saying is true, then it does make sense. Listen, I just wanted to say one of the things, one of the guys you just spoke about, the guy, I think it was one before, you said over it, forget about it, move on to Leicester. Not bothered. Yeah, the Thornton Spur. I think that one of the takeaways for me, and I mentioned this on my walk along, my Tottenham walk this morning, was I think that what happened last night could be a massive blessing in disguise, Jack. I think that if we do assume that Conte is a little bit stubborn as a character and likes to prepare and plan for his teams and reactive as a substitution guy, doesn't want to have to make them unless he absolutely has to. I think that, what happened last night was such a wake-up call that hopefully he will be forced into certain changes for the weekend that we otherwise wouldn't have seen. I still think that if we were going to lose a game, I would rather have lost to Sporting than lost to Leicester. And because I think that the league is more important, and I think we can still qualify out of the group without too many issues. So I'm disappointed, but I think that the loss actually could be a wake-up call for Conte to the point where he says, you know what, Emerson was objectively poor, both offensively. He missed that header, he missed the shot, he had the other chance in the box as well, in the 6-yard box, and it just like flicked up. There's certain changes now that he could see, and I hope that he will make ahead of the Leicester game. And then if those changes come in, let's say, for example, that Matt Doherty comes in or that Jed Spence comes in, which is the area that I really want to focus on. If whoever gets that chance on Saturday, if they grab the ball by the horns, Jack, and absolutely smash it. If Matt Doherty suddenly comes back in and his first 90 minutes plays peak Doherty like we saw against Leeds last season, Aston Villa before he got injured, the Everton game, all those sorts of where he was getting in those positions and banged in a few goals in a couple of games. Like if we can see peak Matt Doherty, or if not him, if it's Jed Spence, I think Jed Spence is the sort of character that whilst he might not be ready, I think he is the sort of guy who's going to say, I've got the opportunity. I'm going to grab the ball by the horns, like he did against Leicester in the FA Cup last season, like he did against Arsenal in the FA Cup last season. And so for me, I feel like this could be a blessing in disguise if Conte removes his stubborn, spectacles and sees it for what it is and makes some changes that otherwise wouldn't happen. I think it could be the best thing that happened to us before we move on to the World Cup break.
I feel like this. I see why Conte went with Emerson in the beginning of the season. Perhaps he was in the best sort of shape, considering Doherty's injury and maybe the rumor that he sort of kind of rehashed the injury, or at least didn't make the best sort of progress that we wanted him to with that injury. And Conte went with what I guess he knew would be a bit stable or sort of kind of reliable in some sense, which was Emerson. But at this stage, with this sort of performance and this sort of wake-up call, and the way that Emerson really did get done at the end and didn't do himself any favors whatsoever, he could have probably had gotten away, like I said before, gotten away with maybe a poor performance had they kept a clean sheet and had he not capitulated in the way that he did at the end of the game. But that falls on him now. And I think that means then, despite everybody having a poor performance, he really showed out as having a really poor performance at the end of the game there. And I think if Conte doesn't drop him, or doesn't rotate him, should I say, Sean, I think that's really poor. I'll be honest. I think Conte at this stage, with this sort of performance, everybody's welcome criticism. Everybody's welcome to, receive a bit of the blame. I think it's totally okay. There's not really anybody that I think can hold their head high or hold their head thinking that they didn't really do anything that contributed to it. I think everybody made mistakes in some way, from the management to the players on the pitch that started the game, and every facet of it. And I feel like Conte, if he doesn't really change things, at least in the right wing back aspect, because Emerson has shown us what he can bring us a lot of energy, a lot of good, at least for the most part, defensive reliability. And he also brings us kind of that, I don't know, that sort of relentless kind of pressure that we sometimes want from the wingbacks. Because I will say he does step out of the defense a bit more maybe than like a Perisic does to try to win it up high up the pitch and all those sort of things. But we've seen it for like what's it been, 6-7 games now? We've seen him play every game. We want to see something different. And Conte has, like I said, 4 or 5 different options to go this weekend with at right wing back. And so I think he should go for it, regardless of his reservations. He should still go for it. I think if he's silly not to.
I agree 100%, my man. I think it's like, I'm just seeing I love Calvin Fletcher to pieces, right? He's an absolute legend. I speak to him a lot offline. He's messaged my WhatsApp group, and he's someone who's massively Levy out, and he's saying there's only one person to blame, right? And it's Daniel Levy. And I feel like this, like, regardless of what happened in the summer, you have what you have. If Conte is a £15 million a year manager, the most expensive employee of Club Tottenham Hotspur, then he should, like, if anybody who's watching this show has been an employee of any business, of any company, that at some point in time, your job has been, you've been frustrated. If you're someone that can see the cracks in the process, or you can see the problems with the process in whatever you're doing, then like you can either like recognize that your job isn't going to change, like the decisions have been made by people that are higher up, and you have to get on with, you have to make best of what you've got anyway. And I think Conte has to do it, and he has to prove right now, regardless of what happens, we have between now and we have between November the 15th or whenever we break for the World Cup until the next window, and we have to get the job done. And Conte needs to, for me, just accept where we are, what we have. He didn't seem to have a moan or a complaint at the time. He needs to get on board it and make the right decisions to get us through until January. And in January, that's our time. Then hopefully we've kept some powder dry. We can go and fix the gaps that we have. But for right now, we have to accept that what we have is what we have, and we have to look at Conte and say, "You're the guy. You're the decision maker, mate.
Yeah.
You're the guy who picks the tactics and picks the team." And most of us can see, all of us. I don't see anybody in the comments, Jack, who is saying Emerson needs to stay. Everybody who focuses on Tottenham Hotspur right now thinks that Emerson needs to be taken back into the bench for a period of time and give one of the other two a chance. And if
This
Conte
happened
does,
last season though too, and we saw Doherty flourish. So I hope this does. I hope this does happen
Exactly.
again. And I think I think we're both agreeing with this. If Conte doesn't do that this weekend, I think he really would be making a mistake there. If you ask me, I think that'd be way too conservative of him because he has so many more options than he even did last season. So it'd be a bit silly.
It doesn't have to be Doherty or Jed Spence. It could be Lucas Moura if he's fit. It could be Decky. Like you said, play Decky and Robin back if you want to go to a 3-5-2. There are options there. The definition of insanity is trying the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And for me, Conte's the guy who has the ability to change the input, and that may in fact change the output. So for right now, I think we have to look at people that can control the destiny of the team before January and see what happens. Sorry, Jack, I'm rambling, mate. Sorry, mate.
All good. I mean, I think we're making amazing time here. Lots of comments in the chat here. I've been bringing them up on screen. I think everything's going smoothly, Sean. We're going to move into the community section here. Again, everybody, if you did want your comment to be discussed, if you did want your sort of ideas to be discussed by Sean or I, or next time, David and someone else, feel free to put them in the community section. We did put up a post last night in the community section. We also put some posts up on Twitter via David's Twitter as well as mine. My Twitter is in the description as well as Dave's. Feel free to follow us there if you want your opinions on the game discussed the following day, because this is something we're going to try to do quite frequently and the best that we can. So again, if you do want your opinions shared on the channel, feel free to put them in the community section when we do a post after the game or on Twitter. Hennessy says, unpopular opinion, but I'm glad we lost. Recently, we've had mediocre performances, but gotten away with results. So I feel people wipe it under the rug. Hopefully this loss will give us a kick up the ass that our beloved team needs. This is a really common. This is
I like it. I like that. I think that makes sense.
These are like, some people come up with these great comments and I'm like, wow, that's like if Spurs were like a political party or something like that, you're like, that would be like a slogan on somebody's fridge from last night's performance. You know, I think Hennessy really hit the nail on the head for a lot of Spurs fans.
Spot on Hennessy. Yeah.
No. Mark saying, Conte said, don't forget last season we lost against Mura in the Conference League and we made an important step forward. I can't believe he said this nonsense. He cost us the game by refusing to use his subs. Baffling. You know, it's funny, Mark. Maybe this shows how much of a glass half full guy I am, because I wasn't able to read far enough ahead in that sentence there. Because after I think of that Mura or the Enes Mura performance in the way that we did sort of bounce back after that, I have a feeling there could be a similar bounce back here. But that just shows maybe how delusional I probably am and how positive I can be at times. But I don't know. What do you think, Sean? Because I didn't actually read the rest of Mark's comment there, where he's absolutely right with the lack of subs and this being a similar sort of situation to Enes Mura. But I don't know. Like, funny enough, I think we did bounce back after that Enes Mura performance, and maybe something similar could happen, is what I'm thinking. I know.
Sorry, I'm just trying to read it through. So Conte said, "Don't forget last season we played against Mura, lost against the Conference League, and we have made an important step forward." I can't believe he said this nonsense. He cost us the game by refusing to use his subs. Look, Conte's. Listen, I spent most of last season on your channel, Jack, being somebody that called out Conte. You know, I thought, and I got a lot of heat for, I called him out mainly for his press conferences, but I also called him out for some of his tactical decisions, playing Doherty at left wing back. I understood. And I got a lot of heat from people saying you can't challenge Conte. Whereas his tactical decisions were one thing, his press conferences, the way he handles his press conferences has always come across to me as his weakest.
Maybe he'll come back again in just a sec.
Am I back?
Yep, you're back. Predicted it. There we go. Continue.
Yeah, I just feel like Conte is trying to control, Levy's trying
Maybe give him another sec here. Exactly, John. 134 watching, only 41 thumbs up. 41 thumbs up. Please hit that like button. Thank you very much, John. I think Sean might have froze there again. I think he'll probably rejoin us in just a sec here. I think the internet just might have dropped for a second there, but I think he was in the middle of a fantastic point. I am going to move on though and talk about Tot 943s here saying Conte doesn't have a great record in this competition, and it's proved it again. I guess also European away performances have come through yet again. And have not really done him any service. He really does have poor away record by the looks of things, Tot. Mark also saying Emerson is being scapegoated. First half, he was arguably the best of a bad bunch. Second half, he was bad as everyone else. The nutmeg for the second goal was bad, but can happen. He was on a yellow, so couldn't bring him down. I am no Emerson fan. I prefer Spence, but as we have seen, Conte doesn't do subs very well. Really well summarized, Mark. And I actually agree with you. I think Emerson did have a good first half, just wasn't able to make an impact into the game in the second half or continue on that decent first half performance. In fact, he ended up being probably one of the worst players on the pitch by the end of the second half. Sincerely, one of the worst players on the pitch by the end of the second half. Sean Maddox saying Conte let us down by refusing to make subs when we needed additional energy in the second half. And I think there was some surprise saying, well, he subbed Kulu in and Son out. Maybe he should have left Son in and take Emerson out because the score was 0-0. To be fair, I think the substitutions of making Kulu for Son was a great one, but Kulusevski was still done way too late. I don't think Kulusevski had enough time to really get on the ball as much as he probably would have liked. What was kind of interesting, though, is I think Kulusevski made more impact with very little time on the pitch than the rest of the front three, which I think speaks to how wasteful they probably were, because Kulusevski made some of the best chances in the game at one stage. And when you look at it, the front three had plenty of opportunities to make similar chances in the way that Kulusevski did. So that sort of then speaks to how poor they were playing up top. But Conte should have put on more subs, and as well, he should have given Kulusevski more time on the pitch to make an impact, if not maybe even start Kulusevski. Big Mike saying, it's not good enough. Why can't we make changes? Fresh legs. I'm hoping for a much better performance against Leicester. We need to come out in top gear. We play like this, and that a draw at best. I still have faith, but the football needs to improve. Come on, you Spurs, big yourself up. Big Mice DS saying grand designs on keeping shape and clean sheets at the detriment of style and substance. Well, keeping shape didn't matter at the end of it. Bricks for feet. This is an interesting comment, DS, but I must say, why did we bring in Conte? I think we brought in Conte to have success, to bring in progress, to go with somebody that we know has proven to do well as a manager and to proven to bring success to a club. And maybe we do want to go back to aesthetically pleasing football, but it's pretty hard to find a manager that is a proven winner, proven success, who also offers everybody's perfect idea of football at the same time. In fact, I think the only two managers maybe that are doing that right now, you could say, maybe Jurgen Klopp and Pep Guardiola, but those two are taken at the moment in time. So I think Spurs fans have to sometimes decide between, do they want a manager that has proven success and proven to give them proven at clubs to bring sort of progress and success, or do you want to go with something that's really aesthetically pleasing and maybe a bit unproven for kind of a bit of a gamble that maybe you can actually win something as well as be playing beautiful football? I might sound crazy there. We are going to bring in Sean back in just a moment, though. I'm just going to get through a few more comments here. John N saying, not good enough at worst. It should have been a draw. What's the point of 5 subs if you don't use them or change formation? Bringing someone on at 86th or 88th minute is a joke. 2 in midfield is not working. Kulu and Longley should have started. Basuma not getting a start. May as well play Spence instead of Emerson and Doherty. Also, why not put Perisic at right wing back and play Sess at left wing back? Interesting point. No point saying we have a strong bench if it's not used. We're getting 2 subs on after 60 to 65 minutes. So at least they got a bit of time to influence. John, well summarized on the subs. I think Conte really missed a beat there. He has such a better bench than he does last season. I don't really care what people have to say about it not being as good as he would like or as good as maybe people think it could be. It still is a much better bench than it was last season in my eyes. I feel like he's got to use it. And if he uses it and it doesn't do anything for him and it doesn't produce results, then he can start complaining maybe. But Sean, have you back in. Good to see you. All
Sorry,
good, my
mate.
man. All good. I mean, we were able to get through some more comments. Kev Williams saying Emerson is a poor player. He's no way good enough. Leo Green Fingers, great name, says, what is the point in having a squad if you don't use it? We have been playing poor for ages and getting away with it. I hate seeing Dyer and Davies in the team, and Royale is a waste too. Didn't really improve. We need to step up. I don't want to put blame on one player here, Sean, because I've repeatedly said that everybody played poor.
Yeah.
But with Davies coming in this one instead of Longley, could Longley have prevented any of these situations? Like, could we have scored if maybe Longley were in the team, or do you think it's just a poor performance from everybody? He wouldn't have made a difference.
No, I personally think that Longley, I said this to Dave on the We Are Tottenham TV pump up show yesterday afternoon. I think that he thinks that Longley's a better defender than Davies. I disagree. I don't think. I think Davies is better defensively than Longley is. I think Longley's far better with the ball at his feet. But I think that if you have a team, if you have a player like Longley who's going to be putting the balls, with more success up to the feet of Harry Kane, Sonny, Decky, or Richarlison, whoever the four are, for him to look good, you need the players that he's passing to make use of the ball that he's delivering. And I think last night there was ample opportunities for those front four to receive the ball and to do more with it than what they did. And so I don't think that Longley would have made a difference last night offensively. I think that the front four had enough opportunity, had enough ball in decent areas, but their decision making, their positional play was woeful. And so I'm not sure the result would have been different had I don't believe the result would have been any different had Davies been on there rather than Longley, because I don't think that Davies is any weaker than Longley defensively. And whilst I think that Longley's better offensively, I think that the people at the front right now are not firing at all. And there's no continuity, there's no synchronicity, there's no chemistry, there's no fluid or flow between the front four that there was last season. That, for me, is a reason why I would like to see Sonny, Decky, and Kane be back in, or I want to see what the front three that we haven't seen with 90 minutes, which would be Decky, Richie, and Kane, play together, because I just feel that there's something missing and the front three need to figure it out. And if they can figure it out, I think everything else becomes a lot easier for Tottenham.
Certainly. There just needs to be changes made, and hopefully we just have a huge wake-up call on this one. Chris Conway saying, a total disgrace. Never let Emerson put his Spurs shirt on again. Jeez, it's a bit far. All he does is try and be flashy, and then laughs when it goes wrong. Son needs to sit out for a few games as well. I think this is time for Sonny to probably have a rest at this stage. I think he has been getting better each game, and he's playing nowhere near as poorly as he was in the beginning of the season. At the same time, I think Richie, despite that performance last night, is undroppable. I think Kulusevski is sort of undroppable with the way that he's made impacts. And Kane at the moment has been our goal scorer. So kind of pick the front three itself, really. Jerome says, another terrible performance. We can't just rely on the old players, and it is time to give our new signings a start. I want Spence to start over Emerson against Leicester. Jerome, we all want to see Spence come in, and it's a bit of a shame if the right wing back we did sign, which we knew was a huge priority position, we did end up signing a right wing back, and we did end up getting a player for that priority position. But if Conte never ends up really trusting him or using him, it would be a huge miss in my eyes. And I think that would really hurt us. In fact, probably hurts our season tremendously, because we know that Emerson isn't a natural right wing back. We know he's making adjustments to it. He is still quite young as well. But if the right wing back that we did bring in to sort of shake things up and challenge the rest of the players there isn't actually preferred or liked at all by Conte, that is big problems. But I'm still going to give it lots of time. I'm still going to give Spence lots of time. I think if the first loss, it's our first loss in 15 or 16 games, switched off at the end. Bet my last euro that Conte will make sure that each player, I think, we touched on this maybe for big up Dermot. Embarrassing is what it was, says Lee S. Just have two words to sum it up. Shite. The other word is also shite. There you go. Double shite. Tio says refocus. Tough week. Big up, Tio. Really appreciate it. Conte to blame, says Colin. So sad, says Link. Very, very unfortunate performance, Link, and it's good to see you in there. Bench Sonny. Stupid idea to switch Romero and Dyer over. Interesting there. But that's all the comments, everybody. Sean, any kind of final thoughts on the performance? Any maybe final things that maybe we learned from perhaps the Twitter sphere or the community sphere? Any kind of new conclusions that have been drawn? And then we're also going to plug your channel as well, which also is tagged in the title as well.
Yeah, appreciate it, mate. I'll tell you what. I'm surprised that I haven't seen any other people, commenting on your show about Daniel Levy and Enoch, because everywhere else that I'm looking, for me on my channel, I'm getting a bunch of comments coming through from my review this morning about Daniel Levy and Enoch, and I'm surprised that there's like a lack of that in the tweets that you've shown. But I think I prefer to see the more realistic approach, which is to look at what we can do in the here and now. And so I agree with everybody in the comment, or basically most people in the tweets. I didn't see a tweet that I disagreed with, and I think it's refreshing to see that people are starting to wake up and recognize that Conte's not infallible. He's a great manager. He's the best manager we've ever had, at least in our lifetimes, or most of our lifetimes, and that that we can start to challenge him and question him and put pressure on him to make better decisions, and hope that the team can react accordingly.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, but Sean, any kind of I think we'll be seeing you later tonight on the debate show. Really appreciate you joining me for this one. Any particular walks with Bugsy or talking points or anything coming up on your channel in particular, or anything
No, usual stuff, my man. Yeah, we're just trying to get through the content that's required right now. I'm 35 subscribers away from 3,000.
Get there tonight. Let's get there.
We're trying to get there. We were 70 away a couple of days ago. We got 35 knocked off last night and yesterday. So if we can get 35, it'd be wonderful to get to 3,000 by the end of the Leicester game. So if anybody is watching that hasn't subscribed to my channel, I'd really appreciate it if you would show some support to my channel. And but yeah, if not, no worries. You'll see me frequently on this channel. I love being on the Irish Hotspur. This is the mothership to me. So appreciate you, Jack, for letting me come on. And I'll see you later on this evening.
See you later on this evening. Everybody in the chat, please hit Sean's channel link right there. It's also in the title as well. You can't miss it. No excuse. Let's get him to 3K tonight. Everybody, absolutely massive it would be. Calf Cop Gaming, good to see you as well. I haven't seen you in a long time. But yeah, everybody, hit that like button on your way out. Sean will be joining us later for a debate show. David will be there too, as always. But everybody, come on, you Spurs. In Conte we trust, and we will be seeing ya.